Now the BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe is one of the easiest ways that you can get that BMW badge into your garage. Now that seems like a good deal on paper considering you're getting a coupe sedan for that kind of money, but the last time we drove it, we felt a little bit cold. Now with this new generation, a lot of work has gone into it. So let's see how much of a real BMW this new car is. A 1.5-litre 3-cylinder turbo petrol powers the new 2 Series in this 218 form. It is the same motor as the one in the petrol X1, but outputs have gone up to 156 psi and 230 Nm. It will do 0 to 100 kmph in 8.6 seconds. Now looking at the specs, you might be a bit apprehensive of a BMW 4-door coupe running a 3-cylinder motor, especially a 1.5-litre. But in practice, it's actually quite a good experience from behind the wheel. To start with, you have very nice, quite sporty seating position. The visibility, I must say, is pretty good. Now coming back to the engine, yes, at low RPM, say below 1500, you do find that it's a bit sluggish. It's not quite woken up. The throttle response is a bit iffy, especially when you want to keep steady momentum going. But once you're past, say, 2000 RPM, you notice that performance builds very linearly, gradually, but still in a strong swell. It's always growing right up to that 6000 RPM red line. So in that sense, it's quite exciting. Refinement is top tier. There are no vibrations and only a very distant clattery soundtrack at low revs. But the piped-in audio does make the small motor sound quite similar to any larger displacement BMW sedan as you ring it out. So if you are moving up, say, from a lot of the premium or sort of mainstream cars, then the kind of performance that the 2 Series Gran Coupe has won't blow you away. But what you will like is how it delivers performance. So say when you are out cruising like this, it's constantly within the power band. The power is very easy to access, which makes life quite a bit easier. And I must say that this gearbox pairs with this engine quite well. It's not too intrusive at low speeds or focused on efficiency. You find that it doesn't quickly try to choose another gear when you push on. Instead, it lets the engine do its thing and only snaps in when necessary. And then when you do put it into sport mode for the gearbox, then the whole experience sort of becomes a bit more urgent. You also have that boost function that gives you an even more aggressive tune for the transmission map. In the real world, I don't think it makes too much of a difference. You can see it sounds quite well in the sport mode too. With this update, BMW has made significant changes to the suspension of the 2 Series and added more rigidity to the body. It now runs on 18-inch tubeless wheels instead of run flats, but on the same tyre profile as earlier. These are the changes that have had the most impact in our opinion. This car now feels a lot more mature, a lot more composed. It feels a lot more like a BMW, where the earlier one felt never quite confident, especially on a broken, sort of uneven roads. It would always be a bit skittish. This one has a sense of solidity, a sense of confidence that you really like, and which you find in a lot of bigger BMWs. So that's quite heartening. It's really quite supple and plush. It's more comfortable as a result. You find that the 2 Series absorbs potholes and handles sharp bumps without a lot of it filtering into the cabin. Combined with the improved ground clearance, this sedan is much less nerve-wracking over large bumps than before. But to be honest, we haven't really driven this 2 Series quite hard around, say, winding, hilly roads or just a great piece of driving road to tell you how it truly handles. But from what I gather with the time that we spent, just like the ride, mature and secure and quite sharp car. Now, yes, it doesn't have that rear drive balance that, say, bigger BMW sedans have, but for a front-driven car, it feels very tied down. It feels balanced in its own right. The smart wheel slip limitation system from earlier still works great. You find that the 2 Series doesn't tend to understeer as easily as other front-driven cars, which makes for a taut and controlled experience. BMW has also worked on improving steering response, and while this generation is better than before, we wish for a bit more. Yes, the 2 Series has fairly precise steering, but it can feel a bit slower turning and could have had a bit more feel on center. have that flat composed agile feel to the car, which I think gives it a sort of lightness that is not bad. I mean, it doesn't make it tinny and so on, but you have that kind of peppy kind of demeanor to it, which a small sedan like this, it needs that. So in that sense, I think this is a great car to drive in. Now, with mainstream car companies packing their cars to the gills with features and tech, luxury car brands have had some catching up to do. But BMW has addressed this to a large extent with the 2 Series. It's only really missing ventilated seats. You get a long list of features and tech. Safety is taken care of well, although a full range of level 2 ADAS functions is missing. No discussion of a new BMW seems to be complete without there being some strong opinions of the way it looks. The new 2 Series is no different. Now, the sedan continues to be based on the UKL2 architecture, so its dimensions are largely similar. It's only about 20 mm longer and 25 mm taller. But the bodywork has been fully reworked. The compact swept-back headlamp is quite a departure for a BMW, although the gloss black M Sport grille is fairly traditionally shaped. We find this arrangement quite light on the eyes, unlike the last car. The M Sport styling kit further goes on to give you quite a bit of gloss black bumper cladding, which helps with the compact look. The visible bonnet shutline is a bit of a sore point, but the 2 Series Gran Coupe's panels give it a more athletic look. The sloping roofline is well done, and it's commendable that despite ground clearance now going up by 19 mm to around 160 mm, the small sedan looks proportionate. The rear has been made sharper to go with the new theme. It looks less bulky than before, and the wide tail lamps have some neat detailing in them. Now, with the new 2 Series Gran Coupe, you get 430 litres, but as you can see, it actually fits a lot of luggage. You have 3 big trolleys, a backpack, and I have place for quite a few more grocery bags, for example. Now, that's because of the shape of this boot. It's very well thought out. It's got flat sides, it's deep, and the opening is also just right. The lip isn't too high, so I think BMW has been very smart with the packaging of the boot of the 2 Series Gran Coupe. The last 2 Series' cabin followed a theme that was possibly BMW's cabin quality and practicality at its peak. It was a condensed interpretation of what you got in the last Gen 5 Series, with banks of tactile controls and high-grade materials. With this new model, it's quite clear that BMW is aiming for a younger, maybe a more energetic, a new type of buyer, maybe someone who hasn't been seen in a BMW before. And that really shows with this cabin. I mean, it's very different. It's quite a departure from anything that you've seen at this price point, SUV or sedan or otherwise, and I really like how it's been executed in terms of its design. This asymmetrical look of the dash, especially the metallic surrounds on this kind of air vent, which looks maybe to some extent like an exhaust tip. I find that to be really quite nice. The way the 2 screens here sit, just the shape of the dash with its smooth layered surfacing, I think it's really nice, especially these BMW M colored stitches. They had a nice highlighting. And I also like the way the ambient lighting has been integrated into this. For example, it's sort of dotted into the metallic bits here, and yeah, it adds that little bit of pop and color that you need in a premium car cabin. There's a minimal sense that combines with this. You don't have any physical controls on the dash face aside from those slightly flimsy roller style vent controls. They cut out clutter but don't feel as tactile or satisfying to use as the controls they replace. You get a similar infotainment setup as the BMW X1 with a 10.7-inch touchscreen and a 10.25-inch driver's display. The iDrive 9 system gives you a more logical home screen and climate menus. An odd trait is that the climate setting only changes by 1 degree and not 0.5 as elsewhere. The small screen size and lack of a rotary selector make controlling all of the important functions that have been packed into the screen not very easy to use on the move. The driver's display, on the other hand, is easy to read and quite configurable. You also have a substantial head-up display that projects useful information onto the windscreen, so interacting with the 2 Series for its driving functions is much easier. Having said that, there are still a good set of physical buttons for some of the absolutely necessary functions. I really like the fact that on the steering wheel you still have buttons for the volume and the cruise control and so on. These indicator stalks are nice and chunky, quite nice to use. And this arrangement that you've seen in many new BMWs with the toggle type gear selector, the roller kind of dial for the volume. These seats I think are very comfortable. They're new for this generation. To start with, you get these extendable thigh support, which I think is a great fit. Some of the materials in the lower sections of the dashboard are not quite what you expect on a BMW. You have soft materials and great stitching around the more common touch points, but some bits like the scratchy sharp plastics around the phone tray in the center console and the door bins aren't quite up to the mark. Despite the compact cabin, you have large door bins and the frameless doors have been carried over, which always bring with them a sense of occasion. Now the BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe has a 2470mm wheelbase. Now that's longer than many compact SUVs, but as you can see, the space here is kind of limited. I think a lot of it goes into the whole packaging of this coupe sedanish kind of shape. So what you have here is, as you can see, quite a bit of room for my feet. These seats are fairly high up and I'm about 5'7". This seat is set to my driving position and this is the kind of knee room I have, so I'm not very uncomfortable. But if you are anywhere close to 6 feet tall, you will have trouble. As you can see, the sloping roof really does eat into headroom. And yeah, having said that, the backrest is typically BMW, so it has that firm, fairly comfortable cushioning. The headrests are also quite comfortable. But having said that, I could have done with a bit more thigh support. It's really not quite enough for me. The small opening and deep floor will make entering the second row difficult for taller adults or the elderly. Once inside, the small panoramic sunroof doesn't make the space feel as hemmed in despite the dark theme and small windows. Now coming to the amenities, of course you have a panoramic sunroof. Now that helps open up this space quite a bit. And you have those air vents, 2 Type-C chargers and this armrest here with cup holders. Now there is a space for a middle passenger, but I really wouldn't suggest anyone other than children sitting here, because as you can see, this with this big central hump, it's going to be a bit uncomfortable, and the way this seat kind of protrudes out. The new BMW 2 Series is now a much more complete package for India than before. Yes, the looks will polarize and we wish the cabin didn't see the kind of cost cutting that it has had with some of the materials and lack of buttons. The engine that makes the best of what it is also helps. But the long list of features, the smart cabin ambience and the much improved ride will be a strong draw for those looking to make the jump into a luxury car.